So it was the visual of him being happily married that would actually led her to manifest. And she would go completely batshit crazy when she was back home. She would claw on the tables. She would completely break pieces out of furniture. And as I said, she would climb on walls. She would speak in different tongues and different voices. She would keep less care about her hygiene, so she would be stinking all the time.
Hello guys, welcome to the Haunted Show. My name is Shlok and I am your host. So today we have as our guest Mr. Savio Furtado. He is a paranormal investigator and researcher, as you know. He has been on many videos with us where he has solved a lot of your doubts, queries, crazy incidences, stories. So today's video is very special. We are discussing about exorcism, like how exorcism works, what are the stories behind it, real case incidences, सब कुछ जो exorcism को लेके है, जो आपने comment section में भी पूछा है, जो हमारे regular viewers है, उन्होंने पूछा है comment section में इसके regarding काफ़ी सारे doubts. So let's talk about exorcism. In our previous video, you have explained a lot about exorcism. कि what are the chronologies of exorcism, उसमें क्या किया है क्या नहीं, and we have said that, we have discussed that. So in this video today, exorcism and how this exorcism worked out, took place. Please, over to you.
I've got many cases, but then for as we say, the client privacy, we actually cannot actually speak about all those cases. But then one case actually comes to mind from down south India. This was about a girl who was 18 or 19 years old, and she was suddenly, I don't know what happened to her before that and how she actually got demonically possessed. But then the symptoms that worked upon her was very bizarre. She used to crawl over walls. She used to speak in different words or different voices and languages. And she also made an attempt to elope along with her tuition teacher. So obviously the parents' first doubt was that the tuition teacher had done something upon her or probably made her eat something or something like that. But that wasn't the case. The tuition teacher was shunned away from there and he left that entire state. And he went somewhere else. But yet this girl was so possessed that she wanted to see him every now and then. She forced her parents in bizarre ways. She would strangulate them and she would demand that she has to see that person. So much so that they would, under their own vigilance, would actually take her to visit him. And he was already married by then. He was already living happily. So it was the visual of him being happily married that would actually led her to manifest. And she would go completely batshit crazy when she was back home. She would claw on the tables. She would completely break pieces out of furniture. And as I said, she would climb on walls. She would speak in different tongues and different voices. She would keep less care about her hygiene, so she would be stinking all the time, and people who would come home would notice that first about her. She would be very bizarrely acting, so she lost interest in her studies, and everything, all about her house was completely chaotic. Both the parents were doctors. And they couldn't help her. They really couldn't help her, and they took her to many psychiatrists. A lot of people examined her and they got to know that this is nothing related to medical science. This is something beyond that. And that is when the case came to me. And the first thing obviously that we do in exorcism is examine the medical history of a person, why and what exactly happened. So we had a couple of video calls with this girl and the family, and I got to know everything about her. And I got to know that she is not medically, I mean, insane as such. So this actually meant that there was something else at work over here. I also tried counseling her. You know what I mean? I have my own ways, getting her into a hypnotic trance. I got her into a trance and I made her, reveal if at all she's still interested in that tuition teacher, or was it him that, lured her into, was there any physical contact or physical abuse involved in that? And there was none. That guy was totally innocent and he had to change states for no fault of his. But it was this girl and the possession within her that actually led to this entire scenario. And then afterwards, counseling further and further, I took her photographs and I was reading her completely. She was fair skinned, female, very fair skinned, and had a lot of permed hair on her, like the way you have in the southern girls. And it was very saddening to see her in this state that she's not taking care of herself. You would see her eyes, the under eye circles, which showed that she wasn't having too much of sleep, probably insomnia, and she was taking a lot of medication. She was forced a lot of medication because of that, which was worsening her condition. So I had a lot of chat along with her, and even from a remote perspective, I never met her personally. So this was a very remote exorcism, and you'll find most of my exorcisms are without much drama. It is not the way they show in movies, like पूरा बाल ऐसा खड़ा हो जाता है और निकल जाओ यहाँ से in the name of Jesus, and वो सब कुछ नहीं होता है. Exorcisms take place in every religion, in every culture, and whatever works for that person will work. What works for one person will not work for the other person.
Yeah.
So exorcism has to be scientifically examined, and a methodology has to be put in place. What works for one person will not work for another. This is something that I keep telling everybody, that when you see some messages from the universe and synchronicities, it doesn't mean that you see 1 1 1 1, so everything is going to go fine, and you see 4 4 4 4, so it means that it's a warning. No, there is something that triggers you, and you need to know what works for you. So every case of exorcism, like every case of a mental illness, is different. What you counsel one depressed person will not work for another person. You don't take the same path over and over again. There are some different ways you know about a certain person, and you work according to that. So over here it was a very different case. So this girl was completely harming herself, and in the later stages it got too much that she used to claw herself completely and just spill blood out, and she would never feel the pain until the next day, when she would realize that what happened. And the doctor couple used to tell their daughter that you must have fallen down or something. They would never reveal to her what she did, because once she's in that trance, she didn't know exactly what is happening. So it took me a lot of time, over a period of time and over the distance, to counsel her, to minister to her spirit, and to minister to her spirit and her soul inside, and then afterwards get her out of it. The first thing that I noticed in this was she had watched a movie in which there was a romantic couple. And when she was returning back home, something happened and she got frightened on the way.
Okay.
She got scared somewhere on the way. It was night, probably she had a night out with some of her girlfriends. And when she came back home, she felt that something on the way.
Okay.
And that is exactly where the demon, as I call it, the demon actually possessed her. Because the demon was a demon of lust.
Okay.
And that is how she got possessed. And because it was a demon of lust, and she was a pure and holy girl. She was a very sedate girl before that, very well performing in her studies, academics. But then suddenly she lost interest in all these things, and she was after the subject of her desire, that was that man, that was a tuition teacher.
Okay.
It was very sad what happened to whatever had to happen over there. And it took me quite some time to minister her out of this and to completely drive away the demon out of her. Right now, it's been more than 3 years. Around 3 years, 2019 something was that case, yeah. It was more than 3 years that she's all fine right now. So that was one case, that I remember, and I can actually openly speak about, that these things do happen when you are possessed by the demon. You tend to speak in a different, because the vocal cords are there to be manipulated. So you might speak in a very different voice. You might speak in a demonic voice or probably a manly voice if you're a child or whatever. I've seen this happening. we have the capability to climb walls like the contortionists of today do. So somehow or the other, these limbs and these muscles are used by the demon to go up and down everywhere. So these things do happen.
So I have a question that as humans, we can lift a weight, we can lift a dumbbell or a weight in one hand because we still have the density in our bones.
Yeah.
But how can we go against gravity and we can climb the walls? If
by holding on to something or the other.
okay,
By the corner of a wall and all. When हम बचपन में किया करते थे, you must have seen some videos of kids also going in the corner of a wall, they climb up somehow or the other. We have that in ourselves. But the thing is, we've not practiced that. Some people do practice that, and they learn to climb up walls in a very safe way. Like these, what do you call them? The what runners? Parkours. Yeah. So those people do that, and they do it in a very systematic way. They stretch the limits slowly,
but
one after the other.
It's a lot of practice.
Exactly.
In this case,
there is no practice. So what they end up doing is they end up harming themselves. You'll see their entire fingernails and all bleeding, their vocal cords bleeding inside internally, right? They will eat anything that is there, and then after they have to bear the consequences of that, because anything weird put in the stomach will obviously churn, and then afterwards it may start to bleed. They might have a lot of intestinal infections, and they might start eating less, and you will see them frail. You will see a lot of dark circles under their eyes because they don't really care. They don't really conserve the body. So a demonically possessed person will show all these symptoms and traits of harming oneself.
Okay. कौन सी सिचुएशन में ऐसा आपको लगता है कि हाँ ये अभी राइट टाइम है दैट आई हैव टू परफॉर्म एन एग्जॉर्सिज्म, बिकॉज एज आई फील दैट इज़ द लास्ट स्टेप ऑफ जैसा इन मेडिकल टर्म्स देर इज़ अभी सर्जरी करना पड़ेगा. So I feel that in this world there must be like now it's a time for exorcism. So when do you feel that?
See, I see demonic possession as any other sickness. तो हर sickness में कभी ना कभी तो आपको mild पहले दवाइयों से चालू करना होगा, एंड देन आफ्टर वो जब दवाइयाँ नहीं चलती हैं तो फिर आपको जरा एक्सट्रीम स्टेप लेना होगा, या तो सर्जरी से, या तो फिजियोथेरेपी से, या तो ऑन अ डेथ बेड वो डिफाइब्रिलेटर्स लेके उनको किक स्टार्ट करना होता है हार्ट को, चेस्ट को, लंग्स को. तो वो करना पड़ता है कभी ना कभी. तो एक्सॉर्सिज्म जैसे मूवीज़ में दिखाते हैं, पिक्चरों में दिखाते हैं, वैसा नहीं होता है कि आप डायरेक्टली वहाँ पर जाओ और पूरा सेटअप लगा के बोलो चलो अभी यहाँ पर आके बैठो, वहाँ पर हवन कुंड वगैरह सब लगा दिए और आपने बोल दिया. ऐसा नहीं होता है. एक्सॉर्सिज्म बहुत माइल्ड प्रोसीजर है. एक्सॉर्सिज्म का मतलब यही है कि आपके अंदर जो नहीं चाहिए, वो जो एनर्जी है और शक्ति है अंदर, आपको जो मैनिपुलेट कर रही है, बस वही शक्ति को भगाना है. आपके इनसाइड वाले, आपके खुद की जो शक्ति है, जो आपके खुद की जो आत्मा है, उसको तो नहीं निकालना है. आपको जो अनवांटेड शक्ति है बस उसी को निकालना है. तो उसको निकालने के तरीके अलग होते हैं. कभी कभी ऐसा हो सकता है कि वो जो आदमी खुद जो वीक हो गया है, या जो औरत या जो बच्ची जो वीक हो गई है, आप उसी के आत्मा को सक्षम बनाओ तो वो खुद ही स्ट्रांग होके खुद ही अपने आप को एक्सरसाइज करेगा कि बोलेगा यार हाँ मैं ऐसे क्यों कर रहा हूँ, अभी मैं ऐसे क्यों बिहेव कर रहा हूँ या कर रही हूँ. रियलाइजेशन हो जाएगा, एपिफनी हो जाएगा कि ये मैं नहीं हूँ, दिस इज समथिंग एल्स दैट इज गेटिंग मी टू डू दीज थिंग्स. एंड ये करने से मैं आसपास में सबको हार्म भी कर रही हूँ, हानि ला रही हूँ, और मेरे खुद को मैं हानि पहुँचा रहा हूँ या पहुँचा रही हूँ. सो समटाइम्स एक्सॉर्सिज्म इज जस्ट मेकिंग दैट पर्सन रियलाइज दैट ये सब करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. तुमको जो चाहिए लाइफ में वो मिल सकता है, तो ये करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. समटाइम्स इट इज़ एज माइल्ड एज दैट. समटाइम्स इट इज़ जस्ट काउंसलिंग एंड आस्किंग दैट पर्सन टू कम अंडर अ थेरेपी, maybe a trance, maybe a hypnotic trance, maybe just sleeping on a couch like a therapist would do, a counselor would do. And then after just get that person to speak out every trauma, every childhood trauma that person has been, and go and gauge exactly where is a point of the possession that happened.
Right.
And get to that person and say आपको वहाँ पर क्यों डर लगा, या आपको वहाँ पर ऐसा क्या ईर्ष्या हुई, या क्या एग्जैक्टली वाई वर यू एंग्री एट दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, वाई वॉज इट एनजाइटी अटैक, वाई डू यू फील डिप्रेस्ड. तो वो पॉइंट ऑफ पोजेशन को अगर आप पकड़ लो,
ट्रिगर हो जाएगा.
एग्जैक्टली. सो वो वहाँ से उसको निकालना है. लाइक इवन इन मेडिकल रिसर्च ऑल्सो, आप कब एक थेरेपी शुरू कर सकते हो, जब आपने वो मर्ज को डायग्नोज किया है. Only when the ailment has been diagnosed will you give the right amount of pills and the dosages, the therapy to get it right. So you need to know as an exorcist where was the point of possession, and then after this counsel that person out of it. So sometimes it helps that even that person is helping you to get the demon out. And as I said, every demon is, again, I keep saying this, every demon is still a sickness that is unwanted. We don't want to fall sick, but हम sick पड़ते हैं. भले हम लोग doctors भी हो, but even a doctor also falls sick. So in the same way, nobody wants to fall sick and nobody wants to get possessed, but the demon will possess you at some point of time. So what was the condition? What made you vulnerable? आप कब वीक पड़े कि वो डीमन ने आपके अंदर एंट्री मारी है? तो आपके अंदर एंट्री मारी है मतलब इट अटैचेस यू, इट डजंट एंटर यू एज सच. वैसा नहीं होता है. इट्स एन अटैचमेंट दैट हैपेंस एंड इट टेक्स कंट्रोल ओवर योर एंटायर body, soul and spirit. So sometimes exorcism is just about understanding where exactly that happened and then after counseling that person out of it. Sometimes it is the person willingly wants to be possessed. It happens. Sometimes they gain power through it and they enjoy that lust for power, that they can manipulate everybody around. सब लोग अपनी आओ भगत कर रहे हैं, सब लोग अपनी ये क्या बोलते हैं, serving me. When I get manifested, when I become like this mad person, everybody is coming and serving.
When, would you say that people saying ki Mata Ana and all these things is a part of it?
Yeah, even Mata Ana is a possession. Okay. But not every possession is a negative possession or a demonic possession. Okay. There are angelic possessions as well. Okay. Whatever helps people is an angelic possession. जैसे हमने वो मूवी देखी, और कौन सी मूवी बीच में, कंतारा इज अ मूवी जहाँ पर कोला होता है, राइट? वहाँ पर जो डेटी आता है इन दैट पर्सन, that is a helpful deity. Yes. It's protecting that place. So not every possession is demonic. लोगों का वो भ्रम हटाना है that every possession is demonic. No, every possession is not demonic. There are some deity possessions, there are some angelic possessions as well. So even possessions also are sometimes demonic and sometimes angelic. एक बहुत सा evil आदमी रह सकता है, but कभी कभी वो evil आदमी भी अच्छा करेगा किसी के लिए भी. So there is that yin and yang वाला feature. There is some good in every bad and there is some bad in every good. तो कहीं ना कहीं तो एक personal स्वार्थ जैसा आता है. So every possession like that, you have to first understand what type of possession it is. And then after, according to that, you remove the exorcism. कभी कभी forcefully करना पड़ता है. When that person is completely drunk with a lot of power, that lust for that manifestation, उसको लगता है कि he has become very powerful, right? And he can manipulate things around. At that point of time, उसको अपना जगह दिखाना ज़रूरी होता है. उसको जगह मतलब वो डीमन को अपना जगह दिखाना ज़रूरी होता है कि you no longer have that power over people. After some time, even they will give up on you and leave you somewhere around. और उसके बाद क्या? Who is going to serve you? Right? So at that point of time, that exorcism becomes very different. And it doesn't need a drama. It always doesn't need a drama. But yeah, some places drama does work. Like religious possession होता है कि MP में एक जगह है जहाँ पर जाके mass exorcisms होते हैं. काम करता है कभी कभी. भले वो लास्टिंग हो ना हो, घर पे जाने के बाद फिर से वही कंडीशन में गए और वो कंडीशन वापस से दोहरा है तो फिर वापस से पोजेस हो चुके हो. Right? Like you go to a mandir, you go to a church or you go to an exorcist like me and I will counsel you out of it. हम exorcism वहाँ पर परफॉर्म कर दिया, वो डीमन नहीं रहा, बट आप फिर से वही घर में जाओगे, वहाँ पर ही वापस से वही अब्यूजिव हस्बैंड होगा या वहीं पर अब्यूजिव पेरेंट्स होंगे या जजमेंटल सोसाइटी होगी. You will back again get back to the same old state.
And those situations where we see a lot of videos where while conducting an exorcism, the person pukes a lot of things and he behaves weirdly, he sits in a weird position and he pukes all these kind of things and वो proper होता है ना, when and then he falls like he's unconscious. He's unconscious. Yeah. So what are those situations? Why does he puke and all this kind of
medical things? Reasons. They might have had in their possession, they might have consumed something that is not suitable for the body.
Okay.
And after some time, जैसे वो घिन आने लगती है,
do you feel that's acting?
That's not really acting. But once you realize that what you've put inside your body isn't edible, like some people eat raw cockroaches or raw lizards like that, like it happened in the case of Annalise Mitchell.
Okay.
The famous Annalise Mitchell, the Exorcism of Emily Rose, that movie.
Right.
Yeah, it was the real case was about Annalise Mitchell, and she used to eat a lot of these critters.
Okay.
She had abandoned food and she was eating all these critters, like anything that is crawling around, raw, live. And after some time, when the exorcism is done, if at all such a person realizes that what I'm eating is really gross, at that point of time, that vomit is induced. So it is not really acting, but it is induced. So you yourself feel the cringe within, and your body will give a response in which it will regurgitate everything.
Do you ever feel that while you travel to a lot of places which are very haunted, which are very silent, which are very dark, do you feel that you can get exorcist as well? Like you can get possessed as well?
Everybody is vulnerable to possessions. Like, for example, if I go in a very filthy place, there is a lot of mold, bacteria, fungus, viruses that are thriving over there. I cannot go like a superhero right in the middle of that and say, you know what, I'm not going to get affected by it. That is being overconfident.
Overconfident, yeah.
Right. So all these places which are infested by demons, as I said, again, demons are sicknesses. There are always chances that I might get bodily possessed by a sickness. I might be possessed in my soul. Soul का मतलब है 7 चक्र होते हैं, the energy sources that run our body. You might get possessed in one of those chakras, and because of the imbalances in your chakra, you might have that amount of illness in that particular part of your body. Right? Diagnose करने जाओ तो कुछ भी नहीं मिलता है, but आपका वो चक्र हिला हुआ है, तो आप शायद से अपना थ्रोट चक्र अगर हिला हुआ है तो आप सच बोल नहीं पाते हो, आप कुछ बोल नहीं पाते हो किसी से. You're always keeping yourself, your feelings repressed. You're not able to speak out. So वैसे चक्रों में imbalances हो जाएंगे. So your soul is affected. At the same time, there is something known as a spirit possession. आपके spirit का मतलब है आपका motivation जो है कुछ काम करने का, conscience, विवेक जो कुछ काम करता है, वो जो motivation को एक दिशा देता है. So or if your DNA memory is altered for some reason or the other, for some trauma or the other, right? वो possession अलग होता है. So there are places which will work or which will tamper or tinker along with your memory or DNA memory as well. लोग अगर हमेशा बोलते बेटा वहाँ पर नहीं जाना, कुछ तो भूत है, बेटा वहाँ पर नहीं जाना, भूत है, भले ही वहाँ पर कोई ना हो, बट फिर भी वो बच्चा वहाँ पर जाएगा और पोजेस होके वापस आएगा, बिकॉज उसको डर बैठा, उसका मेमोरी में आपने पूरा पहले से सेट करके रखा है कि वहाँ नहीं जाना. So that person will come possessed.
Yeah.
That happens.
So, Savio, what are the common myths about exorcism? Like, what do you think?
That's a very nice topic you brought about. A lot of people have misconceptions about exorcism. उनको ऐसा लगता है कि झाड़ फूक वो एक ही तरह से होना चाहिए, या तो they will get them in front of a deity, a local deity, whoever they meet, और जैसे फॉरेन मूवीज़ में दिखाते हैं कि वो क्रूसिफिक्स और बाइबल लेके गए सामने और जो भी है whatever करते हैं. But you have to understand that possession is a very bizarre concept. It can happen. It's a very varied concept, like mental health. You cannot pitch one depressed person against the other. आपको जो ये यहाँ पर जो थेरेपी दी जाती है for one depressed person, उसका क्योंकि डिप्रेशन का रीज़न अलग होगा, and clinical depression किसी और का अलग होगा the reason. So in the same way, demonic possessions happen for different varied reasons and different varying degrees, and उनके symptoms अलग होते हैं. So exorcism एक कैसे हो सकता है? So मंदिरों में जो होता है या चर्चेज में जो होता है या तांत्रिक लोग जो करते हैं, मैं ये नहीं बोलता हूँ कि वो गलत है, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज़ दैट उनको सिर्फ एक ही विधि पता है या एक ही थेरेपी पता है जो वो लोग हर जगह पे आजमाने की कोशिश करते हैं. दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड दैट द पोजेशन माइट बी अ डिफरेंट थिंग ऑल टुगेदर. कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि एनवायरनमेंट गलत होने की वजह से वो डिमोनिकली पोजेस्ड हो, तो उन्होंने उसमें से तो डीमन निकाल दिया, बट क्या वो एनवायरनमेंट सुधारने की कुछ कोशिश की है? क्या उन्होंने वो पहले पहचानने की कोशिश की है? हैव दे इवन सीन और हैव दे इवन सेंड दिस पर्सन टू अ साइकाट्रिस्ट बिफोर टू सी दैट वेदर इट इज़ अ मेडिकल कंडीशन और नॉट? आप लग गए उसी के अंदर, वही पूड़ी बना के चूरन बना के दे दिए, चलो आप खा लो, आप ठीक हो जाओगे. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक वन साइज फिट्स ऑल, एंड दैट्स द मोस्ट कॉमन मिसकंसेप्शन ऑफ एक्सॉर्सिज्म, दैट एज मच एज मेडिकल इलनेसेस और मेंटल इलनेसेस डिफर, and that's the reason the therapy will differ from person to person. In the same way, the exorcism, the technique of exorcism has to alter and change from person to person, from one demonic possession to the other. So what happens in the West is a completely different form of exorcism. वहाँ पर आप कोई भी होने दो, वहाँ पर तो आप क्रूसिफिक्स लेके ही जाके, वो बाइबल लेके ही जाके वो लोग वो करते हैं, and that has been sanctioned by the papacy or the Vatican. और उन लोग ये बिलीव ही नहीं करेंगे कि एक कॉमन मैन भी एक्सॉर्सिज्म परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं, विच इज़ अ मिसकंसेप्शन, बिकॉज मेंटल इलनेसेस कैन ऑल्सो बी सॉल्व बाय अ थेरेपिस्ट. They don't see that as exorcism. And a lot of botched up exorcisms are because of this reason, that उनको ऐसा लगता है कि उनको अगर आप मंदिर में या तो चर्च में लेके जाएंगे तो ये सही होगा. नहीं, कभी कभी that thing compounds and it becomes a worse type of demonic possession. So exorcism के काफ़ी सरल तरीके भी होते हैं which people don't realize that it can also happen with a very small thing. कभी कभी placebo effect से भी होता है. आपने अगर इसको सब बोल दिया कि ये उठा के ये नमक खा लो और आपके अंदर जो भी बुरी शक्तियाँ हैं वो साफ़ हो जाएंगी, एंड दैट पर्सन माइट ईट दैट सॉल्ट एंड विल फील वेरी प्योर एंड होली. आपको अभी कैसा महसूस हो रहा है? बोलेगा हाँ मैं बहुत अच्छा महसूस हो रहा है मुझे. कभी कभी इतना सरल तरीके से भी एग्जॉर्सिज्म हो सकता है, provided you have done your research, your homework, you have counseled that person before and after the exorcism. जो लोग करते हैं कभी कभी वो हमेशा सही नहीं होता है. एंड इवन एज एन एग्जॉर्सिस्ट माई सेल्फ, इफ आई अप्लाई द सेम टेक्निक्स ओवर एंड ओवर अगैन टू डिफरेंट पीपल, then even I will be a failure. So exorcism is a progressive art, a progressive science, which has to be learnt, which has to be well researched, and then after is applied also in the same
It takes a lot of homework to understand the subject.
Yes, it does.
And then do the play.
As it goes in every other scientific discipline. So the failure lies in when people see exorcism or demonic possession as a religious thing or man-gadan kahaniyan. That is exactly where they distance science and logic from the bizarre, and that is where they fall into the trap. So when you try to bring that under the ambit of science and learn exactly what is going wrong in a person, then exorcism becomes just like any other therapy.
So guys, I am sure that आप सबने इससे कुछ सीखा होगा या इससे कुछ लिया होगा कि व्हाट इज़ एग्जॉर्सिज्म एग्जैक्टली. एग्जॉर्सिज्म होता क्या है, वो करते कैसे है, उसको समझना कैसे है, और उसके मिथ्स क्या है. जो आप नॉर्मली सुनते हो डजंट मीन दैट इज़ वेरी मच ट्रू, और जो आप देखते हो वो भी ज़रूरत नहीं है कि वो सच हो. So I'm thankful to Mr. Savio for clearing out all the doubts that we had regarding exorcism. And if you feel that you have something more that you want to share, as audience you want to share, then please drop in the comment section, and we will try to address all your problems and all the questions. We will try as per availability of Mr. Savio.
Yeah, I always keep saying that. I mean, you just post your comments, you put your queries, and according to the constraints of time and availability and expertise, we will obviously try to respond.
Or you can just DM us, and we can keep that as a note, and then we'll get back to you on that. अगर आपको सच में कोई ज़रूरत है, देन यू सीक हेल्प, आपको हेल्प की ज़रूरत है, तो इट इज़ वेरी नेसेसरी दैट यू गेट द राइट अमाउंट ऑफ हेल्प. सो थैंक यू मिस्टर सावियो फॉर दिस वीडियो एंड दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन. ऑन दैट नोट, लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू आवर चैनल, प्रेस द बेल आइकन so you can get a regular updates on our videos. To know more and on what we do, please check out our previous videos. We have a lot of videos that have been posted on our channel. Keep watching The Haunted Show.